Eagles news breaking. Dontayvion Wicks headed to Philadelphia. Packers getting a fifth this year, next year sixth. Philadelphia signing Wicks to a one-year, $12 million extension
And
deal.
so
That's
the Packers,
second receiver that the Eagles have gotten this offseason, Hollywood Brown.
and it's the second receiver your guy J-Lo has lost. Romeo Dobbs on your team now, right?
I mean, they had a deep group, but they'll probably draft somebody too.
Well, and listen, Matthew Golden came on at the end of last year. They have Watson and as always tender hamstring.
I'd like a great one though.
Instead of all true number one.
Yeah, like a great receiver. How about that?
They have a guy,
Not just a bunch of good
Super Bowl champion Sky Moore as well. I forgot about that.
I forgot about Super Bowl champion Sky
like I said,
Moore.
Great.
This is pretty interesting right now, honestly. I mean, on one side you could say, oh, this means A.J. Brown is definitely leaving. But not necessarily. This move is one of those essentially zero-risk transactions for the Philadelphia Eagles. They're bringing in a receiver who has shown flashes of being great, of being awesome, and they're paying him, for a wide receiver, essentially nothing. About $12.5 million. Howie Roseman loves doing things where he can take a swing on a player where, if it doesn't work out, it really doesn't matter. But if it does work, it can have a huge impact on the team. It can be a major difference maker. Most recently, he did something similar with Jahan Dotson. I'm not going to pretend that had a massive impact, but he did have a big-time catch in the Super Bowl. That's got to count for something, right? That's got to matter. So it's all these little things. And now also having Sean Mannion and whatnot. I'm really fascinated by what the Eagles are looking to do and how they're going to run this offense. It's these little things, getting a player like Wicks, getting Hollywood Brown, that make me genuinely believe that Jalen Hurts in this offense, in this passing game, is going to look so different. It's going to be the brand of football that people like me, at least, who look at how Kyle Shanahan runs his offense, have been waiting for. I'm just thinking, man, this is a system where quarterbacks can just thrive. I'm so excited for Jalen Hurts to finally have this opportunity. That doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. That doesn't mean it's going to be flawless. That doesn't mean there won't be moments when you think, oh my gosh, Jalen, that was a bad decision or a bad throw, or Sean Mannion, what was that play call? It was 3rd and 2, why did you do that? We're still going to have those things. But I just think that for the most part, there's going to be a ton of success. And a move like this just continues to give the Eagles more power, more resiliency, and more control over their own offensive destiny, especially when trying to figure out what to do with A.J. Brown. That's why I said, if you have to move on from A.J. Brown, well, you've got a receiver. You're legit. You're not desperate. If you say, we're going to keep A.J. Brown and see what happens, and people say, yeah, but if A.J. Brown is unhappy, then you'll be forced to do something, well, still don't have to do anything. Because A.J. Brown refusing to play or being miserable on the sideline? It doesn't matter. So it just continues to allow the Eagles to say, you want A.J. Brown? You've got to pay for him. You've got to give us an offer. We are not at your mercy. We are not desperate. It was already reported, and I do not like mock drafts. I feel bad. A couple of people have asked me a lot. Sean, if you're watching this, I saw your comment asking if I'm going to be covering the draft more and how I feel about mock draft. I just don't love that. I find it such a mess, so all over the place. I made a Commanders video about them potentially drafting an offensive lineman, forget who it was. And I read the comments for a different video, not my video, where that pick was discussed, and people were so mad about it. I thought, oh man, I haven't posted my video yet. The comment section is probably going to get wild. Because I just think it becomes such a mess. It really, really does. But the predictions are that the Eagles are either going to go tight end or wide receiver in the draft. And again, I'm never going to try to guess or predict what Howie Roseman is going to do. I always love tight ends, actually, more than anything. I am all about getting your quarterback an elite tight end. An elite tight end. An elite tight end. You're not going to tell me that it's just luck that Tom Brady had Gronk and Mahomes had Kelsey. That's not just, oh, it so happens that 2 of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the universe had an unbelievable connection with their tight end. Sure, correlation isn't causation, I get that. But still. So even a move like this now gives you the freedom to say, especially if you're going to keep A.J. Brown, well, we can go tight end. we can do this. We don't have to find that next wide receiver necessarily. But again, I don't know, man, because it also depends on who's available. Maybe someone just falls into your lap where you think, I can't turn this down right now. So again, these moves ultimately add flexibility. They ultimately add flexibility and give the people in power more power. They need power, not only power in terms of demanding things from other teams if they want A.J. Brown or something, but also the power of flexibility for Howie Roseman to say, okay, we can do a little bit of this, we can do a little bit of that, we can budge on this. We're resilient against some injuries and whatnot. We're giving Jalen Hurts and Sean Mannion plenty to work with. They've got plenty in the tank, plenty of ammo. So I just think things like this become no-brainers, honestly. You're paying $12.5 million and you're giving up 5th and 6th round picks. It's just nothing. It's nothing. The Eagles always make pretty interesting moves, honestly. If we're really being honest with ourselves, and this is going to be a short video, I'll end here, these aren't the loudest moves. I want to be clear, these are not the loudest moves. These aren't the biggest and boldest where you say, oh my gosh, can you believe this is setting them up for years? That's not what I'm saying. But I think at the end of the day, and again, to be clear, some of my favorite offseason moves were what the Raiders were doing or whatnot. The most interesting moves have been what the Chiefs have done and what the Eagles have done. And again, the Rams have taken the biggest swing, and those moves might directly lead to a Super Bowl. You can make the argument that those were the best moves. So it's a different conversation here, because I'm not saying that the Chiefs are in a position to do that, or the Eagles are in a position to do that. It's just different. What they're doing over there is slightly different. But the most interesting moves, I'd say, are the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's no surprise that those are two teams that have been the most successful over the last, 8 years or so. Two of the best-run teams in the NFL. Teams that have to constantly make interesting moves to keep winning. Because it's easy to make moves when you're just trying to take that swing to win. It's a lot different to have to keep managing where you're at when you're already balancing a ton of talent. Make no mistake about it. The production that the Rams get, it's even easier for the Rams to make some of these big moves because they're not paying Matthew Stafford his true worth and his production. They're not paying Puka. They aren't even paying Devontae at that point. So they're actually really lucky. If they were in the situation with a Mahomes or a Jalen or A.J. Brown or Devontae and all that stuff, they wouldn't be able to take as big of swings as they're taking. So it's a lot harder. Everything the Seattle Seahawks have done has been awesome. They're paying Sam Darnold under market value. Now they have to pay Jackson Smith-Njigba top dollar. So things start to slowly get a lot more difficult. It's a lot easier FO. Are the Chicago Bears to take swings? They're not paying Caleb Williams anything. Bo Nix? Not paying him anything. Drake May? Not paying him anything. So that's why you can't always just look at what another team is doing and say, well, they did this and they did that. It's all completely different. And that's why I say, we're playing a little bit of a game of semantics here, but the most interesting moves to me have been the Eagles and the Chiefs. I'll just be generic and say I find it interesting. I find it very, very interesting. I haven't been able to tie it all together quite yet or even be fully confident, because at first when this was happening, I thought, oh, this really does feel like A.J. Brown is probably on his way out. But then I thought, I don't know. And now with all the other reporting that's happening, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to be able to figure out Howie Roseman. If I could, then I'd be Howie Roseman. If you would have invented Facebook, you would have invented Facebook. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles making a move to get Wicks? How do you feel about a deal like this just in isolation, just in terms of what they did to get a player like him? And also, how do you feel about the bigger picture impact on Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, all the good stuff? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment. So whether you agree me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you be part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be a part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.